Kaya hati-ati yak hayut katang kita chichikahtune wuchin. Kusakan katishaan tin. Ikoy Juan Yuhan. E itia sandikak. Kwashkatain kahilsa. Yeoecht wasaku. Cheku genki yejene achjiu yijisqa yak. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. Be brave. You got next week to rest, but I can give you a little bit of work, just a little bit. So here is your midterm project, right? We're gonna do it together, so don't worry. Well, there's two things. I try not to stress people out, but then I'm always like, at the last minute, I was like, you know what, let's do this great big thing. And people kind of get mad. One time, there was only a couple of weeks left in the semester. I just had this idea. So I sent this email to students at 2 a.m. I was like, hey, let's do this like big, huge project. And next day I drive to campus and I get in my car and I'm walking to my office and I just see this gang of angry students. Like they could have had pitchforks and torches. They're so angry. So they're walking towards me and I just yelled at them, I want my lawyer. So we just had a negotiation. I said, hey, if we don't want to do it, okay, we'll find something else. I just thought it'd be cool. So this is a story called Yaussaka Verb. So basically what I do usually in the evening, sometimes the next day or the day after that. So I will upload our class to YouTube. And then I will put on tlingitlanguage.com the date of the class, the basic topics that we covered, and then any handouts. So here's the slideshows that we were kind of working off of last time. And then I usually put the chat there. And then, so right here is your spring break translation exercise. We'll just check out the PDF, see what it looks like. So here it is. There's a Word version, Pages version, PDF, whatever, however you want to work on this. So what you've gotten is you've got some Tlingit, and then just fill in the English. Just do as much as you can. And this is the way I would like it to work. Is from now until Thursday. Let's just say 1 week. Just work on it yourself. Just by yourself. Get in the resources, figure out, and just see how it goes. And don't worry. If you're getting just a word here and there, okay. If you're getting sentences here and there, all right. If you're getting the whole thing, all right. After a week, feel free to contact each other, do whatever you want to do, and work in groups. And then work together, however you want to do it. Then you can work with whoever you want and start to go through it. If you're in contact with a speaker, don't just go to the speaker and have them translate the whole thing for you. And I'm not saying don't go work with your elders. One time somebody did, like, I'll just take it to my uncle and he'll just translate it from, I was like, no. But then they got mad. They said, you tell me not to work with my uncle. I was like, no. I'm saying don't let your uncle do your homework. See what you can figure out with the stuff, or else you're not going to learn. Like, and I'm not trying to make fun of them because they felt really bad. They were like really, really upset. I said, I'm not saying don't go work with the elders. I'm just saying when I give you an assignment, see what you can do, and then go work, just there's a different process. And I always want people to go work with birth speakers, elders, but don't let them do your homework for you. That's a blurry line for me. You just you're cruising in the clouds. So that's it. And then it's pretty long. It's 20 pages long. And we're going to work on this. And then once you guys are done, so come Tuesday, we'll do some lessons and some conversations. And then we'll just look at this and we'll start going through it together. Okay. So that's the plan. Any questions? Y'all can't come at me with pitchforks.
Well,
quarantine, safe.
No particular way to do it except for just add the translations next to it, huh?
All you gotta do is translate it and just do as much and yeah. Don't worry. It's not gonna be graded. Like, we're just gonna work, see what you could do. But that doesn't mean like, I'll just throw that. I got a week off. I'll just throw it on the shelf and then we'll do it together. No, because I want you to challenge yourself. This is kind of the next step for y'all, is to be able to take a look at some Tlingit, translate it. Step after that, listen to some Tlingit, write it down, and translate that. So that's your comprehension step. Your speaking step is to be able to continue to be challenged to put together strings of sentences, and then eventually to be able to respond to each other in a conversational way. That's what we're trying to build up to, right?
So,
And then
so don't work on this with other people.
what's that?
Don't work on this with other people in the class.
Just for 1 week, work on it for you by yourself, but feel free to work on other stuff. And yeah, I'm not gonna like, what am I gonna do? Like sneak in the Zoom? You guys working together? Shame on you. No, but just, I'm just trying to say, challenge yourself to see what you can do. And I'm not saying that. So I'm also not saying don't work together, right? He said don't work with elders and don't work together. He's horrible, all right? I'm just saying challenge yourself and then get together and work with each other. Work with elders. So they'll be fine. They'll be fine. This one, I was in a meeting with some, I won't say who, and this guy said something was really terrible. And so then we just attacked him. He said, now you're manipulating my words. And there was this politician, like he was arguing against declaring a state of emergency for our languages. And so I wasn't there when he said it, but I had argued with this guy a number of times. He was a senator. And luckily a friend of mine was there. I was like, could you tell me, just summarize everything he said. Just give me all the main points. Cause you know, she had just come out of there and she was real mad. I said, just tell me everything. And so I took everything and then I wrote my testimony as a total counter argument, including quoting him, his village, and the fact that there's only one speaker of the language left from the community that he is from. And I got done, he came to me, shook my hand. He says, you did a good job, but I'll tell you what, it's not fun to have your own words thrown in your face. So he said, use better words. So don't throw my words in my face. Be like, well, I would have done it, but you said don't work with other people, don't work with elders. So, sorry, I'm a little punchy today. I don't know what's going on. Extra strong. I had just like the bottom of the coffee. So then you're like, scoop, scoop. Just put it all in there. That's what I'll say it is. Any other questions? Okay, fun. So we're gonna see how much of Tl'anaxéedáḳw we can get through. Let's see, I need to do one of these. There's some scary parts in this story. So just be prepared. I don't want anybody to have bad dreams, but some of our stories get a little hardcore. This one's got some part, but you know, I told a story to my oldest daughter one time, like all in Tlingit, and I said, well, I started telling her the story and then I stopped. I was like, oh, there's like a real scary part. And she's like, yeah. And then I told the whole story and you'll see what it is. You'll see what it is. But I got done telling a story. I told it as close to this as I could. And she said, what was the scary part? And I was like, what are you kidding? So it didn't scare it like a 4-year-old, but I understand it does get a little, there's a creepy part in it kind of towards the beginning. So this story is called Tl'anaxéedáḳw. A lot of people call it the Wealth Woman. It took place in Tl'anaxéedáḳw. That's where the story takes place, is right where the campus of UAS is right now. That's where it happened. It's told to us by Sayyidah Elizabeth Nyman and is transcribed and translated by Yaussaka Verb. And they did a really neat thing when they worked on it. So he recorded her, then he sat down with her, wrote it out, they translated it together. And then you'll see if there's stuff in brackets, she's like, oh yeah, I want to add this. So she just went ahead and added stuff in afterwards. Really neat process. It was typed up by one of a former student, Sumik David Russell Jensen, who was looking for summer projects. And I said, hey, and we just took this thing on because it's written in a different orthography. There are multiple ways to write Tlingit. There's kind of a single way right now. But don't want to start any wars with anybody. So we're gonna get to the story. And what I want us to do is we're gonna each read a sentence. If you want to read a little bit more, go ahead. Let me find it. Is it that one? Hold on. Let me find which one it is. Let's mess around with this story a little bit. Oops. Okay. Oh, whoa. I better close that one. That's the answers to your midterm. Okay. Now I think I got it. Maybe. So here let me zoom in. Is that large enough for everybody to see? Is it okay? Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to read at least one sentence. If you want to read a little bit more, you can. That's fine. And I'm not going to repeat it back. We're just going to listen to you. And then we can see the English translation over here. But just if you want to ask anything about what's going on in there, that's fine. We could take a look at it. If anybody else wants to point out anything, we're just kind of looking at verbs. We're looking at some of these directional things. There's a few other things that I might point out as we go through. But so the big part is we're just here to enjoy a story. We're also here to just keep looking at the words of the masters. This is a master storyteller right here. Okay, let me open the chat back up. Who would like to go first?
Ja, du gaat
Jeez.
Tla'anaxéedáḳw awe ach inch a dúlnígan kag éid Yaussaka.
Jeez. Anybody want to say anything about that sentence? My thermos making weird noises. I'll just say Yaussaka is always. I always listen. And this form, it's really interesting because it could mean always used to, and it could also mean always right now. So if I said kachet Yaussaka, I always listen to people. That's what it means. So that's what the CH does. This one has this IN on it. That means used to. So achin, to me, shkatulnigen, people used to tell stories. And then we got tlak here for all the time. Okay. Next one.
Awe achin kadulinik we Tl'anaxéedáḳw.
Good.
You
Jeez.
show.
Oh, good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Keep going if you want. Okay. Okay. Anybody want to say anything about that? Kaudutlinik, shkatulnigen. So there's something kind of interesting here. This SH goes away so that when the SH is in front of it, it means to tell stories. And it's going to push this classifier to go plus D. When you take the SH out of there, now it means to tell a story. And so that, because she's named the story, that's why it changes. That verb changes a little bit. And then achin is to me. Okay. Let's go next. I'll try not to interrupt you.
You shawat chutle de du kade ya kunahain kun ya kunashkas.
Sheesh. Anybody want to point out anything in there? Ask about anything?
You shawat, is that the same as like ayu, like far away?
Yeah, so when there's sometimes a speaker, so Tlingit does not have an article, like the or but it does have this and that. And so whenever you see ya, it's like this, like yaguka. And then I have this other cup here. If I put it down, it could be weguka, ya, we. And if there's one way over there, it could be yuguka. But these are also time markers. So if she's saying you shawat, that's probably someone who lived a long time ago. The other thing is yakunehin, is the time is coming for it. And there's some different ways that could be used. Like I could say, tak itit yakunehin, spring is coming, right? Or tak itide yakunehin is how I should say it. But dukade, it's literally means like the time is coming upon her. So what you'll find is like having babies and stuff like that. There's a real indirect way that Tlingit talks about it, which is kind of interesting.
You froze after ka day. Could you say that one part again?
Oh, sure, yeah. So kade, so basically it's saying yakunehin, the time was coming upon her. And so there's a real indirect way that Tlingit talks about pregnancy and having babies. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty indirect. And so Tlingit has a lot of direct ways to talk about a lot of things, but some ways you sort of talk around it a little bit. Kun is with people, comes from ka'in. I might be freezing again. It's giving me all kind of.
You
give
are
me-
freezing like constantly.
Okay, you guys go ahead. I'll just watch.
Tl'anaxéedáḳw Tl'anaxéedátákwénéyi Chagut Chashit Ka Ke Shadutich.
Sheesh. Okay. Kluk, so there it is, always. Neil, at home. Ka tokanei, people's babies. This is a negative form of du'u. So du'u, when you put a closing suffix on there, will turn to way. The u open root will change to way if you close it. But w doesn't close. It has to be some sort of consonant that closes it. And this means didn't used to. So you can have negative, and you can have repetitive, and you can have no, not anymore. So that gives you a lot of information. So you can interpret that as always, people didn't, so there's the not, have babies at home, but now they do. You can probably interpret it with all those different things. Okay. Oh, I should change the punctuation here. Okay. Chagut is other or different. Chashit is a brush house. And then this is to raise a building, to put up something. It's like you lift it up by the head. So that's why the sha is in there. And the K is there for the upward motion. Okay. Let's go next.
Away day. De ye ya sha nadan uk we shawat gudak shach shewi yak kunagas.
Sheesh. Anybody want to talk about anything in there?
Nullguts.
Yeah, so Qanashkas is for people to migrate or move, especially like they don't really know where they're going. They're just going. And so people are built in there. So this is a fourth person pronoun. So people are moving right now. So what she's probably talking about is like the village wasn't fully settled. That's what I would think. This Sakshawe, there's a whole bunch of ways to use these maybe type things, and you're going to see sometimes they get really long. There's kind of a kshe built in with the sa, with the giwe. They're all smashed together. And it's kind of fun to see how they do that. Because when you do that, you're just saying, well, perhaps they were just kind of moving around. Yash Nadanuk, she could feel it inside herself. So that nuk verb has to do with you feel something. And it has to do with labor pains too.
Oh, that's what I was wondering, because I wasn't sure if that word had associated with the pain or typically.
Yeah, it's kind of really just feeling it, but then there's certain ways you can say it, and they'll interpret that as labor pains. Again, it's
So could that be gas pains?
what's that?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry, I got a delay on mine. Could it
We
be
heard
gas
what you
pains too?
said.
Oh, well, that might be just like chutnik, you know. So it kind of depends, because there's another verb I think that's related to this one, which has to do with like a midwife, because the nuke could mean like I feel it, but it could also mean I kind of feel around for it. It just kind of depends on how it's being used. Okay. Next.
Eduhak. Ak oead den hetle which kikade wetle chashkit ye wududzini klecha klech aya akt adu ak.
Sheesh. Okay. Anything you guys see in there that you want to point out or talk about or ask about?
I'm just thrilled to see aqu.
Yeah, there it is, right? Wuchkikade is probably where the name Wushkitan comes from. Wuchkikahit. Yodidzene, as people did it. Chaklek is just one. Okay. Next.
Ak adu ak. Is that like the fire around?
Oh, yeah. So ak is in between. And then you could put that T on there so it's like it's situated in between them. Right? And so right here you have these brush houses. And then Tlingit likes to do this a lot. So it'll tell you what the things are. Then it'll switch it to this it. And that's what the is. Akt means it's situated in between them. And then atuak means someone builds a fire. So this da'ak would be chata'ak,
Okay.
would be I build a fire. Okay.
Okay. I was looking for a con somewhere and I'm like, I don't see it.
Right. Yeah, and so it's really interesting too, because Khan is like, I think is literally like the flames, and then it'll switch over to gun a lot which is just generally a campfire. But then to say like burning or like building a fire, and that's really interesting too. Like when you look at the long forms of Tlingit, they talk about Khan, but if it's the actual flames of the fire. Good discussions.
Cool. Should see.
Ah. Okay. Who hasn't gone?
We shawat kahwa ye shtanuk you are.
Sheesh. Anything else see in there you want to talk about? Shtanuk again. You is a pretty neat thing. It's very short. And it just really means, it kind of means like people say it, right? It's good to use in stories because it's like, so they say. It's kind of that kind of a thing.
Is so shtanuk, is that the same as like a shtidanuk?
It's pretty close, yeah. So like shtudanuk or shtidanuk is like you feel your emotions, like you, so it's on the inside. And then shtanuk is like you can feel a physical sensation. But that's the one that will usually refer to labor. And so it's pretty interesting because it's sort of like it literally has this, it has this literal interpretation, but then once you say it, people will know. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Next one.
De shi dudach awanak tla chashit charudu jis kesh shao duati.
Okay. Anything in there, folks? Awanak is for people to stand, plural people to stand. So dudach. So here's one of these directional things around her. Tle is when or then, and just keep an eye on it. It takes a while to get a feel for how to use that, because it could really say like right when this thing is happening or then at this time, but it really starts to really sort of push things together in terms of time frames. And then yeah, we get the chashit, charut, dujiyis for her. Okay, next one.
Tle yi awe tle kaden wududzene du ya ak taden taden.
Oh, sheesh. That dane is it's a suffix that you could put onto verbs, and it makes them into adverbs. So warmly, as opposed to, so yita would be hot or warm. Dane. This one, it comes from yak'e, is good. Kedane is goodly or well. So there's a few of these that you're going to see quite a bit, these Dane words. And then there's actually quite a few of them, but some of them you don't hear, and you can even get sort of combinations. So chidzi is difficult. Kesh'zi is easy or not difficult. Shishzidain is easily. Shagao is loud. Shagaudain, loudly. So it's pretty handy to sort of, there's a set of them that you're going to just start seeing, and then you could put that right, it comes right before the verb. And then so wududzene, they did it. So people did it really well. And Kadain is a really interesting one too, because you could say ach ashcheitz Kadain yekakwati, which is I hope it will be goodly, but it translates to I hope it will improve. Okay.
Could you use Kadane? I was looking for a sentence a week or so ago about like eating foods that make you feel healthy and well. Would that well be the same for Kadane, that well, or not?
Yeah, it could work like that. And so like you could say Kadain kukasti, live a good life, right? And so you could, it works really well in front of commands because it means to do that thing carefully. So like if someone's taking notes, you know, and like say all of a sudden it gets really intense and you feel like this stuff needs to be really well documented, you might say Kadain kashikit, write it carefully. Yeah, and then it could work Kadain kha. And then you could also use things like just like just eat good foods. Okay. Okay, next one.
Akaawit Yesu Wesha Duyaksha Dutla Ka Chu Du Shat Dutla Dudak Wunak.
Sheesh. Anything you folks see in there that you want to point out or ask about? So when you have yach, so you see that du yach sha. As soon as I heard that, I would think the women of her clan. So that's how yach can work. So it could say ach yach yati ka, the one, that person who's like me. But when I hear like me, I'm going to think same clan. And so that's what they're sort of saying here. Du yach sha, the women like her. And then we get into these maternal kinship terms. So it's just saying like only the women of her clan, especially her immediate family, would go around her. Dudachu nak. We get it again. Standing around her.
Is the Agawetsa Yesu Weisha kind of an oratory way of expressing yourself, kind of like Agawetsa Yesu Weisha?
Yeah, that's a good point. So aqa'awe is just sort of moving the story forward. You're just jumping the time frame ahead, right? And then you could jump way ahead with other things like wananisawe at some point. Now we know we're jumping well ahead, right? Aqa'awe is just sort of saying sometime later, right? It's really just saying following that, after that. When you put sa in front of it, aqa'awe sa, you're saying only after that, right? Oh, now what sa is sort of like merely or only that thing. So now it's a little bit more immediately. So it's what you're saying is only after that happened, now, and then the Yesu is right now. So it's saying now, only after that happened. So yeah, and so pay attention to these. These are narrative devices that storytellers use, and they switch them up all the time. It's very deliberate. It's very closely linked to a Tlingit oratory. Okay.
I have one last question. In the English translation, why does it say or instead of and? Is there a word that adds like, or is it just trying to reference like her women like her, like her examples? Why isn't it like, and then her mother, sister, and her older sister, and her mother gathered around her? We just not know the.
No, I would say and. That's a good point. Because yeah, that's ha, right?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if there was like a Guetli or something in there that was like, maybe this is who we're there.
Yeah. So the or thing could be handled with some. We had some speakers who would say gwash, would say ituagesiku gwash chayu, and they're asking, do you want coffee or tea? So sometimes they're using gwash. Other speakers are using this word kachu. Ituagesiku kachu chayu. And then this other one, mankas, is what I think speakers in Teslin were using. But the actual sort of like a single word like or, I don't think there's like an actual equivalent. Maybe. Mankas might be the closest thing, but speakers outside of Teslin don't use it. So, yeah, I think maybe it was just, maybe as they translated it, she just didn't want it to seem like they all had to come at the same time. That might be one.
Yeah, I think it was an English problem, probably. Like, and makes more sense in Tlingit, and English is just weird because when you say or, it has to like, or just her mother. That's what you think in your head, even though it's not.
Yeah, then it sounds like they can only check in one at a time or something.
Yeah, that's English. The Tlingit's weird. Okay.
Good point.
Thank you.
Ha'itea.
Kakwa kugasti we takwane. De tuk to de woods nuk jo dua ach.
Sheesh. Anything you folks want to point out or ask about in that one?
Yeah, man. Tukane. Why is it called that instead of Tukane?
It's a dialect thing.
Or is this, what's the dialect of this one again?
She's from Atlin.
We were just talking about it. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. That's how they say it there, huh?
Yeah, I think some, but then there's no actual Atlin speakers left. There's some speakers who are learning, but as far as I know, I think the last birth speaker from Atlin passed away a little while ago. But Aquane is something you'll hear in other places. However, the word for baby does come from tuk, which is the cradle board.
Sheesh.
This ach verb means to bundle something up. So that's another thing, like Tlingit loves categories. So you're like, how do you say tie it? Well, you're tying a knot. Are you wrapping it? Because this could also be, oops, that same verb could be for wrapping, like with wrapping paper. But then when you put the j in there, you're binding the hands, which is something they used to do to babies a long time ago. They really just get them in there tight. That's why they call them tokuni.
Sheesh.
Ah.
Sheesh.
This one goes over 2 pages, so just skip that stuff. Go ahead, somebody.
They touch the yich with the yich. A cut away at the stuff.
Jeez. Anything in there?
The hammock. Is that must be that, is that jigach?
Yeah, yeah. So qayq is to swing, and then qayqach is a swing or a hammock. And they used to make these ones that tie it to the ceiling, and then it would go, and then I think through another thing, and then they would often like tie it on their foot so they could just sort of move you could move your foot to rock the baby, and then your hands were free. And so they did that a lot with the kids. The yiq is to pull something, so they pulled it up, and that's what the verb is doing. An interesting thing is like ta. You might know ta, like sleep, but if you put that classifier to an s, that's to lay someone down, or like tuck them in. Aka'awe atusta. They used to tuck the babies away in the swing. Tuck them in. I don't know. Okay, let's keep it going.
De un uchi sakshewe tsatsi awe. At wujik ein. We are yach.
Sheesh. Anything in there you folks want to take a look at? I just want to point out that for time references, you could do some things like, the khun, right? So khun is like how many. But like if I was telling a story, it's like ataya akayewuti. They were on an island. How many, and so that's saying how many days passed, right? That could be interpreted as a question. Sa yawachi. But in the context of a story, I could also interpret that as for many days. And that's what you've got here. De kun uchi sakshewe. And you don't even need the yagi. This is usually you hear it's like yawachi, but this is uchi. And that's for a day to pass. How many days maybe already passed. Is kind of how it works. But again, it's another narrative device to we're pushing into a whole, this is saying, moving on to this other part of the story, there's this other stuff that's going to happen. And then yach, that's how we go around a lake. There's no niche at the lake. Only niche is at the ocean. Okay.
Tayadi you away to a sock.
Sheesh. Anything in there you folks see you want to talk about?
Would ta be the would that be bottom?
Yeah, like talk. So there's a few verbs like behind and the bottom of the cavity. There's at least one other where the K is there, but sometimes, a lot of times when you put a suffix on, it just goes away. So, ach, behind me. But if something moved along back there, I could say ach, nach. So then the K goes away. And same with here, talk. And so you could say ta, nach. And that's how it works. And in this case, it would be talk, yedi, but when it contracts, so when things compound, when they go from multiple words to a single word, everything goes short except for the last word. Almost every time. They tend to just go short and low except for the last one. But in this case, the yedi just gobbles up that K. So talk, yedi becomes ta yedi. And I don't know what kind of bird this is. So I'll just say this. Don't laugh at any birds because we don't know which one that is. We're going to use these things. So we kind of started using these things, which are in the Crippen keyboard. They got some fancy, like Yilamits or something like that. I don't know what they're called. So we use these because if you had some word that, like if you had this word seek, and then it ended with this, and then we put that just starts to, it just gets a little funky. So that's the main reason why we switched to using, I did it again. These things, just so you can see it if there happens to be an apostrophe right before it. Okay, whoops. What did I do? I went all the way back again. Okay, here we are, right here. Whoa. Sorry, my computer's getting mad.
Wasa Wanugu Tayadi away wait. You away Cook Ayaka way Yis Kisani away ye Kayaka.
Okay, geez. Anything you folks see in there that you want to talk about?
Chawasa. It's not like how I know Chawasa.
Yeah, so like chawasa is like any old way. And so, and it's an interesting, because you could say wasakuwanuk, wait, tayeti, wait. That would be pretty much a more straightforward way of saying what the English translation is, where the Tlingit might have something a little bit more kind of insulting. So it's like, how is that lake bottom child just being any old way over there? That's how I would sort of look at it. But, as they work through it, and then sometimes when you translate the English, it depends on your intention too. Like a lot of your folks' work is going to start pushing into the translation realm, where you're in between Tlingit and English, and then sometimes you're like, well, I don't even know how to translate that very well into English, because there's a bunch of stuff going on in the Tlingit that's sometimes hard to codify in English without it getting like super, super long. But yeah, chawasa is sometimes kind of insulting. So you might say, oh, they really did that chawasa. means they just did it any old way. So these question markers, wasa, dasa, kunsa, when you put, well, I guess it's more like cha, but if you put cha in front of it, I'll have to check the text. Make sure it's not cha. Okay, never mind. People said to people. Kisani are little boys. They're little tree trunks or little spines is what it translates to. That's what they are saying. Okay. Let's go and change these. Anybody want to read that next sentence?
Jesu nach ya nashkein su you awa our gate has awati at uchikain you has adayaki. Oh, excuse me, adayakai.
Sheesh. Anything about that stuff? Yanishken is to hop along. Yanishken Cassidy.
What does awet do? Because I've seen that in other phrases like awet
Yeah, so aweh is, I guess I would translate as that's it. And then we sort of keep going. So it's a narrative device where it's really just sort of saying you're calling a little bit of attention to what just happened. That's how I like to think of it, right? So they're saying this. That's it. They agatas awati. So here's this agate, right? Which on its own means sort of against something. So it could mean encounter, like two people who like run into each other, like just in terms of like they see each other and visit a little bit. A gate against it usually means you're doing something wrong. And then hasawati, it's almost like they carried it. So you could probably interpret this a whole bunch of different ways too, which was like they're going to bring something upon themselves. They're violating something. They're physically doing something that's wrong. So a gate could be it could be morally wrong. It could be against the rules. It could be against the laws of nature and the way the world works. Okay, and then adayakai. Adayaka is somebody is saying this thing to someone else right now. So they're probably saying this to the bird, but maybe they're saying it to each other. I don't know. Okay, next line.
I'll do it.
Sheesh.
They too we nachat wujikin wujikin we tai yadi you are.
Sheesh. I'll change that to a comma. Yeah, so here's Deitsu. So kind of already, that's what this is doing. Usually it's like already. Tsu is again. Wei nach is two things. Wei, which is over there, and nach, which is along. So wei nach is along over there. Hey nach is along this way. You nach is a long way over there. Ya nach is along right here. But there is another ya nach. So if you said like ha ya nach, it's like it's crossing in front of us. Or you could say, like let's say I said, Tl'anaxéedáḳw. So I told you, drive a grocery store. And then you're really talking, tell me some story, and you just drive right on past it. I can say, you're driving past it. So yanach could also be passive. It's a different one than this one. But that's what the waynach is, along over there. Hot is this direction. Wichik'en is it's jumping. We'atayati. So it's really hopping around. Okay. Did that take me back to the beginning? Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Okay. Sorry.
Aga awe tlefsu gia aduch sayus kakulgek shutugek yadutsika.
Sheesh. Anything about that? There's a big word in there, which is this one, which is to stop someone from saying something, especially. So tlefsu aduchsa. This is a long and complicated way of saying, well, maybe nobody. Maybe nobody. So tlech adusa. So we, like adusa is kind of asking who. Cha adusa is whoever. Kech adusa, nobody. So the way that those work with those question markers, you'll see them used in longer, more complicated ways. Maybe nobody told them to stop. And she's saying this because we know you're not supposed to insult animals. You don't laugh at them, you don't point at them, you don't tease them, you don't make fun of what they're doing. And then here we got to gate. So there's that gate against it. But you'd say, to gate Yaussaka. They said something that really insulted me. It went against me, my feelings. And then this gate can also be used to talk about people arguing. To gate you has ooh, there. And then, oh, go ahead.
I think you were going to answer it. The yadutsika. Could you please explain the prefixes?
Yep. So this one you would, if you heard like a yadutsika, that would mean someone said it to them, right? But the object goes away because now we've got to gate. So this is the Yaussaka verb. The Yaussaka verb usually means for someone to say a specific thing to someone else, right? So as you're telling the story, sometimes the story is about, oh, they told them that dinner was ready. But then sometimes it's very specific words. They told them that mom said, put it down, right? And so sometimes you're going to quote somebody, or in the context of a story, it's like they said these words. And sometimes those words set something into motion. But then when you have this Yaussaka verb, there's a set of things you could put in what we call the preverb that now creates a whole different verb. So when you've got, so you can have possessive pronoun, to gate, ya, subject, S classifier, ka. So I could say, to gate Yaussaka. That person insulted me. It to gate Yaussaka. I insulted you. But where it gets a little tricky is with this fourth person pronoun. This is kind of an advanced rule. The fourth person pronoun will make sure that all zero classifiers are minus D. They can only be zero or ya. All the non-zeros must be plus D. So you're going to have dudze, dudle, duje, or if they're the negative, you're going to have dus, dush, dush. It's a bit of a tricky thing. So whenever you see the duh That's when you're going to get the z as opposed to si. Just a little classifier stuff. Okay, let's do one more page. And then we'll take our break. We'll see. Let's go for a little bit longer. Oh, someone's got a long sentence. Go for it. Do the long one.
Awetlawa, wekaku, tigediku, dasawa, nuskuku, dasa, wuchkonayade, wuchku, likat wuchkonayade, kuwa, kayu atuha yausik ek, kayade to you.
Sheesh. Okay. So there's quite a few things in here. And one of the things that we can pull from this is how to make lists of stuff. Like, you know, it's just, oh man, there's all kinds of stuff there. All kinds. Right? If you're talking about all kinds. I went to this dinner party, man, there's all kinds of food. Then you just name them. You just start naming them. You throw a dasa in there. And that's just saying like other things, whatever. That's how it works in the context of these lists, right? All kinds. Then you throw a wuchqunayate, different kinds. Right? So wuchqunayate just means different kinds. That's all it means. And then all the different kinds of blankets. She's really getting fancy with it, right? Like, oh man, blankets. And well, it says blanket, they're hides, right? They are hides that are made into blankets. But, you know, we got khu, we don't have dugu. So they've been worked into blankets, right? And then atuch, a Yaussaka. So, yeah, fried shrimp, shrimp gumbo. Tsikat, adedus iyechte, cooked all kinds of ways. A Yaussaka is the plural form of ta. So one person ta, plural's cheuch. Y'all got more than one kid you're talking to? You better say cheuch, or they'll be like, haha, which one? Right? So there are verbs that change when you go plural. And that's what's going on here. So they're laid down into them. And then kayate to you. The you is really interesting because I can just really envision a speaker going like this. Away you. They're just showing us with their hands what it's like. Uh-oh. You guys gonna do the scary part before the break or after the break? Okay. Have at it.
What?
Somebody's got to do the thing.
Tle kunakaden yan ache awa. Kahut wujikin we atwe tayadi.
Sheesh. There might be... I do believe there's a typo in there. Sorry. Okay. So there's kunach. So then, really, well, the yun in front of a verb means to completion. So you could say ascheu, people are sleeping. But when you say yan ascheu, they're totally out, totally asleep. I was fast asleep. That's how you'd say something like that. You could throw kunach in front of it, throw a yan. I was totally out. Ka, people. So this one, this low tone ka, means peoples. And there's all kinds of things. You could put ka tla, people's moms. Ka ish, people's dads. Ka chut, among the people. Chu is among, and it can take a suffix. Ka chut wujukin. It just came hopping amongst the people. This atayadi, what's it gonna do? Oh, here it comes.
Tl'we ka Tl'anaxéedáḳw Yaussaka Tl'anaxéedáḳw Akawajel we kawak. I'm sorry, I stepped away from my computer. Did someone go?
Okay, so here's the walk, people's eyes. Right? Then those, I guess that, in this case, those. People's eyes, then, so right, we see tle and tle. So it's really sort of saying like these things were really happening all in a row kind of a thing. From it, kinde, up. This one, dach, is how you say plural non-human things. A lot of speakers don't use it these days, but it's something that you should note. Sometimes you'll hear it as like daqati, and it's the same thing. It could be an underlined G or an underlined X. It is an underlined G, but that underlined G can become an underlined X pretty regularly. Yaussaka or tlekw. That's to gobble up from the heads. So the verb itself is to really be hoggish. So like tl'anaxéedáḳw is the name that Ruth Demert gave to Thanksgiving. So it's like pig out day, right? So there's this sense of just like really going wild, right? So it's just really rah, 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 rah. Then there it is again. Just first from it, dach, those non-human things, kawajel, to carry a bunch of things at the same time. So it's just really, packing them out, packing out those eyes. Next one.
Did everybody go on break?
Yeah, I guess, is it break time then? I guess we're plucking eyes out. Now we're all just like, gosh, you scared him off. Scary voice. Okay. Well, let's
This story, when I was a kid, this was told to me, and I was always fearful, never went into Auk Lake, never.
Yeah, I mean, sleep with some safety goggles. I don't know. But the big thing is like, don't laugh at no birds. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll take our break then. So take 10, we'll come back and, it's going to do more with these eyeballs. So just be ready for it. Okay, back in 10.
Some ravens are pretty funny.
Okay, is everybody back with safety goggles, maybe?
So, Luke, there are other stories about eyes being plucked out.
Oh, are there?
Not
Like
that
oh yeah, Raven took his own eyes out. Yeah.
he takes his own eyes out. So it's important to know these verbs.
Yeah, there are different verbs for removing eyes. So this one is to gobble them up. Raven just took them out like a round object. No big deal. Okay, let's move it along. Oh, this one. Yeah, I guess we'll just do this one. Somebody read that.
Was dagaya klel tu dunukt Tl'anaxéedáḳw we ku'u kayanaka a suyugagan adeya nakik yak awe kakuk yanagutle yutle.
Sheesh. Wastakaya is just, it's a complex collection of particles for some reason. Like people, they didn't feel it. They didn't feel anything. Yanach, like this side. Yanach, that side. And so those work, but you'd end up being sort of pointing, like if you were sort of saying, Yanach, Yanach. So if you were talking like, okay, this side of the room, do this thing. This side of the room, do that thing. But it's saying where it's going, right? And so what's interesting, so it's just saying, what this is literally saying is the ones, just then, the ones on this side, the people, and that, and on this side, right? So she's probably going like this and like this, so she's like doing this, right? Tsu yuqaqan, oops. Yeah, I guess that's right. Qaqan. Adeyanehihiyeh. So this, we probably talked about this before. So you can have verby, yeah. The I doesn't always have to be on there. So you have verb, yeah. It means the place where the verb happened. You can have ade verb, yeah. The way the verb happened. And then this yeah, you can also put suffixes onto that. But in this case, you could write it like that, right? Yach is like. So just like the sun, and this yanachich is for a celestial body to move. Stars, the sun, the moon, they go yanachich. And then here's the chuch again, chuch, just repeatedly going among the people. Yanakut, it's walking. Tl'yutle. Then that, then sort of, just like that, right? Okay, let's read that one.
Kahwa chashtakat kawa. Akadesh.
Okay. So this kahwa, it's probably kind of an Atlan thing. When I hear speakers from Teslin say something like that, they'll say, what is the word? Dehua. And then if you hear people on the coast, they'll say satqoyeqa, which just means finally. So like after a long time. Chashtakat means all. So shtakat means all. Chashtakat is like every single one. Kawak, there's the peoples. Ach ke akajesh, it just picked them all up. That's what ach ke akajesh, picked them all up. Like if there were some cards or something. So it picks up all their eyes. I guess. I'm just going to move this down. Someone want to read that one?
Wasawe atuni.
Sheesh. So you could say wasawe. You could also say wasaat wuni. If you're coastal Tlingit, a lot of northern Tlingit would say wasaat wune. What happened, right? And that can have a lot of different uses. And then if you're from Cake or you're from the interior, maybe you'll say wasaat wuni, or from Prince of Wales, southern Tlingit.
Have you heard of Wasaya Atnanin?
Yeah, wasaya atnanin. What is happening?
So that's different.
It's the same thing, but it's just saying right now. I've also heard wasa atnanin ein. What's happening with you? It's just a more complicated way to say what's up. But yeah, wasawe ya atnanin. What is happening? Like right now. So like the context of that could be maybe I just showed up and I'm like curious. I just walked right into something. So maybe I'll turn to you and sort of say that so you could let me know. Or if I'm confused, like I don't know what's going on, right? Like you're a witness, like two people, and maybe they got some beef from long ago, but all of a sudden they just start kind of having this real intense disagreement, and you're like, wait a minute, what? You know, and so then you're like, that's when another time you might use it as well. Okay, let's go.
Yesu ki a yevune. Kachwa we. Kaden ki a kachich.
Sheesh. So there's Yesu, right? So right now we see Qia a couple times for the dawn. Okay. Kuch coming through with the Wendy's commercial in the chat. Sheesh, for the throwback. So so you could see this, how this, you could say Qewa'a, it dawned, but you could also say Qia yewune. I would say the yewune, like that means it happened. So saying it like this kind of gives it a little bit more emphasis, like then the dawn happened, as opposed to like then it dawned, right? So it's just making it more of a big deal. You can get kind of fancy. And then it became total daylight, right? Let's do this one.
Aga awe we shawat. De cha do shoot. Do akne jin.
Okay. Anything in there that you folks want to talk about?
There's that same word, aduak, for start a fire.
Yep. And then there's this word nooch that can come after a verb. Students of mine from years ago would just say nooch, like that was their way of teasing each other, because nooch, it comes right after a verb to mean it always happens, right? There's a little bit more to it than that, but it's a pretty good starting point just to say. And so like someone would say something like, oh, I'm late. and someone will say nooch, just to like tease them, like you're always late. And it doesn't work, but I thought it was fun. And so, but other places they'll say it could be nooch, or it could be nooch, or it could be niche, depending on your dialect. So you could say adu nooch. People always build a fire. But you can also put that, remember that dusagen, that suffix to say it doesn't happen anymore. So you could put that right onto the nooch or to the niche, which is coming right after the verb, adu aknijin. People used to always build a fire for her. But in this context, that lets you know in that short little sentence, it didn't happen this time. Dushut would be right at, literally at the end of her, but it means right next to her. Okay, you get 2 sentences. Whoever wants to do this one, do 2.
Waswe awune, klek su sa hak yugut.
Sheesh. So we looked at that first one. All right, there it is again. What happened? It could also mean what's the matter, right? What happened? Kesh not, tsu again, sa. So this, I would probably go like this. So kesh sa is nobody. So what's really interesting is if you put nobody, so kesh asa, nobody, kesh dasa, nothing. If you put them in front of a verb, the verb will go negative. Right? So this, it's really interesting. For me, anyways. And my uncle, Smitty, taught me that because we're kind of upset at somebody, some people, and talking about them. And he said, Keshdasa awasku. I was like, oh, that's how you'd say it. Okay. They don't know nothing, right? And I was like, I was taking notes. I was like, yeah. So here you have kesh su sa hach ukud. So this is the same thing when you see like hot, hade, hagu, same thing. Nobody else came, or nobody came again, right? And so like, so she's getting ready to have this baby. Like usually when a woman was going to have a baby, people really took good care of her. They had rules, like only the women of her clan could go near, but they'd bring her all the food, everything she needed. But she's out there just by herself. I'll fix some punctuation here. Okay, we're good. So I'll read that line. I'll fix these little things.
Dech uchi awe we shawat ade ke waech. Dahat gagudi yewan. Deat ach kanachuti Yaussaka.
Jeesh. So dech uchi, 2 days pass, right? It's like a really short form. Like dech yawachi is how I've heard it, but this is a master speaker, that woman. Ade ke uwa ich. So ke uwa ich is somebody yelled. So she yelled in that direction. Da hat akakuti yuhan. Pretty complicated. Somebody come over here already. One of you come over here already. De art. Art is the verb root all by itself for cold. Ach kanachwuti. Ach kanachwuti means it's overpowered. It has overpowered me. And there's different things you could put in there. It depends. if you could say llwch, and that means I gotta pee so bad. It's overpowering. Yaussaka. This is what she says.
So she doesn't have to say "Untitled" because it's overpowering, and so there's already a verb there. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, so like, well, the difference would be like you could say "Tl'anaxéedáḳw," and that's just like I'm cold. But if you say the cold has already, it's already overpowered me. Like, and so she's really saying like can't even warm up now, right? So it's really sort of, you're past that point. So "Untitled" could be like, ooh, I'm chilly, I'm cold, right? But it's not, this is probably what you're saying when it's really getting to be too much. So with this "Tl'anaxéedáḳw," there are different things, like if the cold is in there, it's like, she's probably thinking, someone doesn't start a fire, like I'm gonna be in trouble.
Wasa ya de atnani ye awe tuati.
Oh yeah, that's almost just like what we had from Kuch. So not kuch. So this, so she's saying there's no reply, but in this case, like everybody had already, they were just quiet. They're just totally quiet. Not a single person was making a noise. Is really, if I looked at that, that's how I'd sort of interpret that. There's some advanced stuff going on in here. But that's, you know, so you get the negative again, one. There's a person on here, that's the q, so people, and then to be silent, right? Wasaya de atnane. What's going on already? She thought. Okay. Who wants to do this one?
Yata tot away de sudu kach ke at nashich.
Sheesh. So yata is this one. Tat is the night. Whoops. Day, already, again. Dukach, on her. Ke atneshich. So Tlingit sometimes does use metaphors, because you could say Dukach siudaku satan. It rained on her. You could say Dukach kewa'a. The sun rose on her. But this atneshich, so it ran on her. So there's these different ways, like cut uagut and cut wushich. Those are bad things. When something, it literally means just walked on. You could say cut uagut. You gotta be kind of careful, because if you say it just like cut uagut, people probably think you got. It's like a euphemism for saying like I got diarrhea. But you would say hakat uagut with that big sickness, that bad sickness came upon us. So usually when things go running on people or walking on people, it's always a bad thing. It's always a bad thing. And so the night again is running on top of her. So it's a pretty wild, like it gets into some metaphor territory. But the reason why she says it this way, because again, it's a big deal. There's no fire. She's already, the cold is overpowering her. Now it's getting to be nighttime. And now that, like, this is serious, because people really did take good care of pregnant women. And so she knows that, right, something is wrong. She's just, because she's supposed to stay in there and be still and take care, and that's how you take care of the coming baby. How about this one? It's gonna get scary again. Someone want to read that one?
Tl'anaxéedáḳw, why are you on a snitch?
Sheesh. Anything you folks want to talk about in there?
The neat and a sneech, is that the repetitive ending?
Yeah, so in this case, so you could say Yaussaka is how we would commonly hear that verb on the coast. But you could also say Tl'anaxéedáḳw. Somebody's doing something right now. They're fixing it, they're working on it. It could be, it's just a generic do verb. But you say Tl'anaxéedáḳw. It keeps trying to do that right now, right? So what's going on here is it's trying to take her blanket. It's this little bird. It's trying to come in. And so I think, yeah, she had the baby already, I think, right? Maybe.
Suedu akwaneit uchutle ayadat wujeheh.
Okay. So there it is. So again, the baby, that her baby, also just then around its face, which is interesting because it's an it as opposed to duh. The reason for that is probably just so that we would know that it's not her. We don't say it usually for a baby. The other thing that we could do, you could say tsu we ash taukaneyi tsu chutle do yadat wujahich. So the ush is the main character, right? The main person we've been talking about. Yadat wujahich, again, it's a metaphor. It's like it's running around its face. Literally, that's what it means. But when you hear that, especially in the context of all this stuff going on, a bunch of stuff's going wrong, now it's doing this weird thing to the blanket, and now it's when you say a yadat wujahich, it's trying to get at its face. Because it's hungry for more eyes. I don't know why. You're going to have all the eye plucking verbs after this. So just in case you needed them. Somebody read that one.
Aku gile awak akke ashaga wusleku.
Sheesh. This makes me rethink. Let me go back for a second. Okay. Oops. Where'd I go? Okay, here we are. So I have the verb root a little bit wrong. So it's not gobbling the eyes. It's plucking them like a berry. Like if you're going to take a single berry, this is the verb for just taking a single berry with your fingers. But now you've got head, surface. So this would be a pretty good verb for plucking out eyes. If that's what you were doing, I'm not encouraging that, but we got a verb for it. So yeah, and akuak. So this one it's trying, and then we get the next verb which has this So this would be tl'anaxéedáḳw, just like a berry. It would look just like a berry. And that's why it turns into a U. So you could say akuak ahwagudi. It tried to walk away. Right. Okay. Who wants to read?
awe tle you on a snitch. Tle dasaya dasa. Kake ish ich. You awe tuati.
Okay. Sheesh. So there it is. It's doing it again. So we've seen that one before. And then dasaya dasa. What is this? What? Ach kach ke ishich. What keeps running up on me? So that's, if you need to say something's coming to get me, now you know how to say it. What is coming to get me? Dasa ach kach ke ishich. So this, the verb root for here is he. He. This like this where it gets a little tricky, okay? This is the same way I would say you are always running up. Like if you were always trying to get me, I would say it this exact same way. The reason why the pops in there is because you must, if you're gonna have a consonant in the prefix, you must also have a vowel. So sometimes the letter I just pops in there, doesn't even mean anything. It's just like, I just gotta be here. I don't even know. It's a default kind of a vowel. And that's what
So that's kind.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, that was it.
I was going to say so that ish, just to make sure I understand it correctly, ishich is referring to it's running at it all the time.
Yes. It just keeps repeatedly. And this one, it's the K part is important because it's like it's running up. It just keeps running on up, running on up, running on up.
Kind of like kekak to clock.
Well, you would, is that like we're gonna win or we're gonna succeed?
Yeah.
You would just say Yaussaka Verb. But the K, we'll get to why the K is there sometimes and why the yay is there sometimes. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How about this one?
Akwashke kia ye nani.
Sheesh. So this kahwa, and then we see there's siwe and ashiwe. There's a whole bunch of these little parts. You just smash them together to say like maybe finally the daylight is coming. That's how I'd say the daylight is happening. The dawn is happening. So I don't know what kind of bird that comes out at night too. I've never figured out what the atayeti is. I haven't seen it in anything. Okay, how about this one?
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, isn't that in that one that? Gosh, I can't remember his name. It was on the Tlingit Legends. Tlingit Legends. The Sleep Bird.
Oh, maybe if you can find it, let me know. Because
I
maybe
will.
there's an English version that talks about what the bird is too.
I'll look for that. I think I know where that might be.
Oh, sheesh. I'm just real careful around all birds because I don't know. So now I'm just like, oh, you're a bird? I'm chill. I'm not laughing at you. I'm not telling you you're jumping around. Okay, excellent.
Tl'anaxéedáḳw.
Okay. So that's it doesn't, and then it didn't exist. So this is kudzati would be, or kudzati. It's a fun verb, like kudzati is to exist. Kudzati is often to be born, but it could mean it did exist at that time. And then kuwasti would be it didn't exist. And then to say this right now, you'd say keshkusti. So that's how you say it doesn't exist. So it's like a good answer for like if someone says wasat Yaussaka Verb Tlingit Tl'anaxéedáḳw. A name doesn't exist. Okay. about this one? We have 10 minutes left. How far are we gonna get?
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Yesutsu adet ich.
Sheesh. Now again, that way, yell. Yelling, right? So she's yelling again that way.
Tl'anaxéedáḵw.
Good. Sheesh. So this one is a little complicated. So if you said Tl'anaxéedáḳw, that's saying, let me try. That's a hortative verb, let me try. K'eh, on its own, it's a low tone, k'eh. It kind of means it would be good if, but then it combines with certain other verb forms. And for this, like, so if you basically put k'eh, hortative first person, throw a suffix on it, and that's how you'd say, I must do this. I have to do this. So this is how, it's complicated, but this is how you would sort of, if you had to convince yourself of something, this is how you would say it. But you could just take this phrase, and if you ever needed to give yourself a little encouragement, you could just say that to yourself. I have to try.
Ch'akyat Wudua.
And the next line.
Okay.
Cook.
This yanach away yat ka ayak kunduwich.
Sheesh. So chak, long time ago. Yet would do a oo. Yet would do a oo would be people had a baby, right? So it's in this case it would be a woman, right? So women had babies, you know. So it really means like to use a child. It's kind of how that it works. But this is again coming back to pregnancy and birth just tend to have kind of indirect language. It's kind of interesting. And then what the suffix is doing here is saying when. Long ago, when women had babies, over 1 month, yiat, a bed, ka, on, kundu, which becomes kundu wage, means that people put them in the bed. Or people made them lay down in the bed. Chosatin, kejishlitzak, shkeki. Was that a hand up? High five? Are we okay?
Chutke? Yinde Jin. No, I was sure over here reading away though. After I read that line, and then all of a sudden I realized I think I'm muted after you said next line. I was like, wait, another one?
Read it all the way to the end. Sheesh.
Could you please explain the part like where she says long ago when a woman had a child? Like I've been wondering how to say when verb happens.
Yeah, hold on a second. Had to silence them. No fun. I used to, when I had a long time ago, I had 2 dogs. If you wrestled with one of them, she liked to wrestle all the time, and she'd start growling and having fun. The other one would come out and go "Rrrr," until everybody stopped. And then he'd go back to bed. I used to call him the fun killer. So now I'm assuming his role. I'm like, everybody, knock it off. So the win thing. So tle could do it, but it's sort of like saying then. And so you're sort of tying a sequence of events together. But basically, this suffix on its own can do a lot. So you could say, hun dakahiti gachtu adi, wasus tlatakhani gachtu u. That just did the win thing. When we get to the store, we're gonna buy milk. So that's the very short form, is you throw a suffix on the end. And there's a couple other ways to take care of it that you'll see, but that's the one I would say to start with. And that just turns it into a win statement. Because if you said ch'ak yet would do a u, people had babies. Ch'ak yet would do u, when people had babies long time ago. Good question. Yeah, it's a little complicated, but that's a good way to start with it. And so if it's not directly tied to anything, then that's what we'll say. Duneshi atugudi, when he went to his house, and then I could say something else. Okay, I think we got time for one more. This will be the last one.
Yaussaka Verb. Yaussaka Tl'anaxéedáḳw.
Okay. Sheesh. Few things going on in here, like a lot of fourth persons that are popping up, right? So when we start talking about the way things used to be and stuff like that, you'll see the fourth person pronoun just start popping up all over the place. So like that's how we were taught, right? So that's what the fourth person does. It just says people, or it used to happen, or stuff like that. So when, well, ka means comfortably or suitably. Kuwuti, tlekadain. So this is when. So when people were well, I guess I would awetsa, only then. So only when people were well. Yesu, now. Kushatusnukch. Pretty complicated. This is to help somebody. This is people helping people get up, right? So there's these verbs for like laying down and getting up, and then you could do it to yourself. Like it's a shinde, which is a short form of shitanuk, which is get yourself up. So this nuk verb means to carry a living thing, but you can also do that to yourself. Shadusnukch. People. So this is the first people. It's an object. Sha is the head. Du is the second fourth person. So people do this to people. Nukch. They always help. So people always help each other up. It's a very complicated phrase. Yaussaka is a cane or a staff. Tl'anaxéedáḳw. People walk on a cane. is literally kind of what it's saying. They walk around. The fourth person in motion verbs is complicated. So for those of you, if you're into grammar, this de, which is usually the fourth person, so it depends on the verb, but we could say people do it or it happens. But when you start saying people walk there, it becomes right in the object spot. It's just an unusual thing. And that's it for this week. Well, and like the hardest sentence we've done all semester, but this is a master storyteller. So every now and then I just like to go into these stories because we're trying to work up to this stuff. And so it shows us so much stuff, like stuff we can digest right now, then a whole bunch of stuff where we're just like, whoa, you know. We got a week to work on the translation of the other story. Yaussaka. Get as much of that done as you can. We'll come back, so we'll pick up here. We're on line 98. And we'll just sort of start from here. So there's some stuff that's going to happen. We got about 14 more pages to go. It'll take us a while. And then we'll also move into just some lessons about some other stuff. And also just some more prompts to get us talking. But what we'll do is we'll come back Tuesday after next. There's no classes next week. We'll come back the week after that. Probably read the story for a little bit and then just sort of chat for a bit and start looking at the translation of the other story. Okay, chi shuhan kdain sa. Rest well.
Jeez.
Goodness, cheese.
She ye kwasate na huni
Ekwati.
se ganan yeki keski.
Jeez.
Se ye kwasate nena.
Nas cheese.
Sheesh.
Kwasatin kasonk.